y'all, and welcome to another exciting episode of Down Home Dirt, the show where we dive deep into the journey of entrepreneurship with those who took the plunge and all the ups and downs that come with it. Today, I am met with Maria with Clearly Organized. Thank you for coming out today.
Thank you for having me.
I am super excited. I feel like we've met probably it was like 4 years ago on the internet due to the nature of our businesses. And we had a conversation which really enlightened me on how well you do this and what you do, because I am not that person, as you can tell from the clutter in the background. Not me. So I wanted to start off by asking you about yourself. Like, where are you from and how did you end up in the Triangle?
Well, I am actually from Kinston, which is not far from here. Grew up there, went to Meredith College in Raleigh, and we just have kind of landed all over the Southeast. My husband and I have moved several times, actually 8 times to be exact. And Clayton, I have lived in 3 times and love it. Love this area. Really nice to be close to family, but also, there's a nice little distance between here and Kinston. And, we just really like this area. So this is where we've ended up again for the 3rd time and love it and hoping this is permanent.
No, that's great. I understand. I've moved a lot in my life too. And I've been here has been the longest I've ever lived anywhere.
Wow.
So that's really saying a lot because I didn't grow up moving a lot. As soon as I turned 18, I decided I was going to move every single year when the lease was up. And then I bought a house, which is why I've been here the longest.
That'll do it. That will absolutely do it.
Yeah. So I was like, and now I'm all like dealing with all this mess because I've just let it accumulate, which I'm sure a lot of your clients have as well.
Yes.
And I just don't care right now. So I'm just going to look at it until it pisses me off, and then I'm probably going to throw it away. I'm going to be honest. That's just what I do. Which is why I wanted to bring you on, because I feel like you have a complete other idea of how that should go. It should not be chucking it out the front door.
In most cases, no, but you're right. There are some cases where chucking it out the front door is absolutely the best answer. So, everything is a case-by-case basis with us. We definitely do not have one method that we advise people to either get rid of things or, how to keep things. It really just depends on you and your lifestyle.
No, absolutely. So let's talk about what sparked your interest in organizing, and was there a defining moment that led you to pursue it?
It's kind of funny. I've always been kind of that type A person. I was an elementary school teacher for years and years, stayed home with my children. Pandemic hit. I was actually teaching part-time and loving it. Part-time teaching was great. Pandemic hit and that job disappeared because no one was in school anymore. So I was bored and needed a plan B and looked at different things that I was really interested in doing. Wanted to make sure it was something that I was not only good at, but would really enjoy. My kids were a little bit older. They were middle school and high school. They didn't need me to be home all day, every day with them. So I started looking at different things, and organizing kind of came up. It was kind of the cool new thing. And, there were lots of shows out there about it. So my husband's like, that is what you need to do. So I kind of toyed around with the idea for a good 6 months. And finally one day he said, are you going to do this or not? I said, well, maybe. And so we were looking at websites, and I thought, well, I really need a website. And so I'm kind of hemming and hawing about whether I want to do it or not. And he's like, I think you should do this. Click, and buys the website. So that's how I started. He kind of pushed me into it. Now, background, we've been together since I was 16. We got married right out of college. We will celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary in February. So he does know me well enough to be able to push that button and be secure with it and know that in the end, that was what was best for me. And that was a little over 4 years ago, and I haven't looked back, and it's been amazing.
That's great. I love that support. That's kind of how I feel with a lot of business owners. They just kind of get pushed into it, and it's fabulous. People do know you better than yourself.
It's scary, but it is absolutely fabulous. And he is extremely supportive of the business.
That's great. Can you describe a particularly challenging organizing project that you've undertaken, and what lessons have you learned from it?
Oh gosh, they're all so different. I'll be honest, they're all so very different. We have been so blessed. We've met so many just amazing families. And one that comes to mind kind of off the top of my head is we met this family, and mom and dad both worked full time. Mom actually had 3 jobs. she was just super intelligent person, super dedicated, and just had all these skills. And so she had several ways she was, using those skills in different jobs. Dad worked full time. They had 3 children, all under 3. So they had a set of twins that were 1 and a 3-year-old.
Oh
Or
gosh.
actually, I think he just hadn't quite turned 3 yet. And they were drowning, literally drowning, and could not keep their head above water. And this mom and dad, they worked together. They worked together as a team. They were so supportive of each other. Just, dad pitched in, mom pitched in. It wasn't just everything on mom's shoulders. Such a great family. And we went in and did their kitchen, their laundry room, their mudroom area, their dining room, and got them all kind of set up. It was this time of year last year. I absolutely fell in love with this family. The one thing we really learned from it, though, is something that we have really discovered with, I would say, all of our families that we organize for. No one is in that situation because they want to be. No one is in that situation because they're lazy. No one is in that situation because they can't do better or because they just don't care. People are in that situation because they're overwhelmed, because they have too much on their plate. It's just like with a cleaning business. You don't want your house to be dirty. But when it came to these parents, and I saw this firsthand, their priority was those 3 children. And if things didn't get put away or if it wasn't, perfectly organized, that wasn't the priority. The priority was, were the children fed? Were the children healthy? Were they being socialized? Were they playing with their children? Were they loving their children? Those were their priorities. And then, of course, they had to deal with all the priorities from working and their different jobs and that type of thing. And keeping their house organized wasn't a priority. So it kind of fell to the wayside. And then it became this overwhelming, like, dark cloud, and they couldn't get out from underneath it. Were they intelligent? Absolutely. Were they motivated? Yes. Did they care? Yes. Were they lazy? Absolutely not.
I feel
They
that.
got overwhelmed.
I feel that 100%. I personally have ADHD, so I do not care because it becomes overwhelming. And so I have to like separate it. So I feel that. And I can get things organized, right? But I cannot keep it that way.
Right.
And
Well,
so
and that's it. And that's the difference with what we do. There are a lot of companies that will come in and tidy up, and that's fabulous. And that might be the service someone needs. But if somebody needs a system, we always tell people we like to get to know them a little bit, and we always tell them we're going to be all in your business. But that is the way, honestly, that we can provide a system that works. And the best feeling is to get a client who a year later will text me and say, guess what? It still looks like what it was when you left. Guess what? I've been able to maintain this. And we will sit down and talk to them. And, we all get this image of organizing like the home edit, and it's this, beautiful, perfect, with everything decanted and everything. It's just so, that's not organization. That's really pretty, but that is so hard to keep up. I would never advise that mom with those 3 littles to decant everything in her pantry. I don't care how pretty it is. That is a lot of extra work that's unnecessary. Now, we do get clients sometimes that is what they want, and that work does not bother them. I will be happy to do that. But we have real conversations with our clients about, is this something you can maintain? Someone will send me inspo pictures. I want my pantry to look like this. Okay. This is what the maintenance of that's going to be. Are you able to do that? So we kind of get really down and dirty and really talk about, hey, can you maintain this? Are you sure you want to maintain this? Every time you get a new box of cookies and you put it into that canister, are you going to want to wash it all out and make sure it's all clean and do all the things you need to do? So we kind of try really hard to set them up for success so they don't end up with a system that doesn't work for them because it's too complicated. Most of our clients, I would say, have some level of ADD or ADHD. Honestly, I'm going to think we all have some level of ADD or ADHD, but some are diagnosed, some are self-diagnosed, some are not, but definitely something we run into a whole lot.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because something that I always think about when I'm attempting to organize is, how am I going to maintain this? And if I do maintain it, how long before I don't care or I walk away because it's overwhelming?
Right.
And that explains why I have the dark cloud over my house right now. I'm okay with that though.
Well, it just has to be simple. And you know what? I can't deal with complicated systems. My own pantry, I don't have things decanted. I have my brown sugar, my flour, and my white sugar. Those are the only things that are in canisters. My personal pantry is not this big decanted, beautiful, Pinterest pretty. It's just not. It's not the lifestyle that I can maintain. So I don't do it.
No, and that's great. I think it should be function over form. Just that's how I do it. And so sometimes things aren't aesthetically pleasing, but it's okay. When it comes to my closet, though, everything has to be on display. It's part of the ADHD because if you put it in a
Mm-hmm.
drawer or you put it away, it's gone
Forget
forever.
it. Yep.
So, speaking of those, how do you approach the emotional aspects of decluttering? Like, are there common emotional barriers that you observe in your clients?
The love that we attach to things is unreal to me. And I've been there. And here's the thing. I don't see my job as forcing you to get rid of anything. It's not my job to force you to get rid of stuff. It's not my job to force you to declutter. It is my job to make sure that what you're keeping in your home, you love, you need, and you use, and you're happy about it. So that's my job. So when you start talking to people about why they're keeping something, we have criteria we give them. Hey, do you use it? Is it useful? Would you buy it again today? If you saw it in the store, would you buy it again today? All those things play into whether we keep it. And then there are a lot of people say, well, I paid so much money for this. I don't want to get rid of it. You already wasted that money. You already wasted that money. You might as well just go on and forget it. It's holding up space in your brain. It's taking up, that extra 3 pairs of pants that you don't wear in your closet that you have to sift through every day that don't fit, that make you feel horrible because you look at them and you go, I know these don't fit anymore. And then you feel bad because you've gained weight or lost weight or whatever the case may be. That's another stressor on your day. It's another thing to go through. Do you really want that? Is that object so valuable? And I love to tell people the story. My mom passed away when I was 20. And I moved her, I'm an only child, and I moved her things through 6 moves. 6 moves, I moved her things in boxes with us. And finally it hit me. 1, those things in boxes do not keep her memory alive, does not bring her back. 2, they're clutter. 3, someone else could use that. That winter coat that's sitting in there that's brand new that she hardly got to wear, there's somebody cold that could use that coat. Those nice clothes, there's somebody that could use that for a job interview. All those things, I'm like, this is not keeping her here. This is not making me feel close to her. They're in a box. Why am I holding on to this? So that was kind of a big revelation for me personally. And a lot of people, once they can see that their things could help someone else, it makes that getting rid of so much easier. So usually if somebody's really struggling, I will share that with them because it helps to know somebody else has been there. Somebody else has gotten rid of the stuff. And if it's something that you have that you just don't want to get rid of, then let's figure out a way to put it where you can see it and enjoy it. Let's keep it somewhere in your house of value. If it's that valuable to you that you don't want to get rid of it, why is it in a box in the closet? Where could you put it that when you look at it every day, it brings you joy? So that's kind of, I had to get to that place myself. And so we've had clients we've worked with, and we start that process with them. And we have some tricks that we teach them to how to keep that process up. And I have a lot of clients that come back and say to me, you know what? I didn't want to get rid of everything that day you were here, but 2 weeks later, I walked back through my closet and I got rid of 18 more pairs of pants, or I got rid of this because I realized I didn't need it. And it's very freeing once you learn that memories are not in things, that the value is not in the thing itself. It's so much easier to get rid of.
That's really enlightening because I noticed this is a long time ago that I put more value on things than I do on like people and stuff of that nature. So, like, say for example, I went out with somebody and we've got salt and pepper shakers, right? I will always remember that person by the salt and pepper shaker, even though I
Mhm.
never use it. And so that's really interesting. Now it's a reflection thing that I'm gonna have to do. Like, does this stuff make me happy? If I look at it every day, like what am I holding on to essentially?
Right. See, there's no rules. You make the rules. That's your house. So you make the rules of how you want to live in there. My job is to help you find the rules that you want to live with, that you can live with, and help you get there. Like we see ourselves, myself and the ladies that work with me, we want to hold your hand and get you where you want to be. And there's so much more to this than the cute little containers from the container store. Do not get me wrong. I love some containers. I love to make a pretty space, and we will make your functional space as pretty as we can within your budget and within the constraints that we need to. But that's not organization. Organization is the system. It's the knowing where things belong. It's knowing everything in its place and a place for everything. That's organization.
I am learning so much. You have no idea because I thought just obviously it has to look pretty and it has to be, right there and everything. No, it's more than okay. I'm learning with everyone else. This is so enlightening. Thank you. So speaking of, like, what philosophies or principles guide your organization methods and how have they evolved over time?
It's kind of interesting. It has evolved to some extent. Before I was at first pretty focused on make sure everything looked perfect because it was representing my business. So I wanted to make sure everything I put out there looked absolutely perfect. But what I've learned is it's those imperfect spaces that people are really gravitate towards and they feel like they can accomplish. We've done spaces in a little tiny 2-bedroom apartment, and we've done spaces in a 75,000 square foot house. So we've done both ends of the spectrum. And, it's really easy in a house that's brand new, 7,500 square feet, to make it look all, decorator, Pinterest perfect. It's super easy to accomplish that. And people love those. But the ones I get the most comments on them, ones I get the most reaction to, are those smaller homes where it looks like your pantry, where it's the small little closet pantry with the wire shelves, and it goes from being a hot mess to organized. We use bins, and anybody goes through our social media, you'll see them in a heartbeat. Clear bins that we get from the container store that are the most reasonably priced bins I've ever used. They are our little secret workhorse. I shouldn't tell anybody about them, but the most expensive one is $7.
Wow. I've never been to the Container Store, but I see you post about it being like your most joyful day and like you get to go there. It's like Christmas to you. I've got to check out the Container Store now.
It's so fun, but it's very overwhelming. But, before you go into the container store, measure, 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 measure. Look at what you have. Do not go in there and buy containers first because you will absolutely fail. There is a process to this. We don't take a job until we've seen the space, until we've had a chance to do measurements and take a look at the space and see what's in there. We will not take a job. I don't like to do jobs that are unseen because you're not going to be successful. Now, I've done this for 4 years. If I know the basic layout and stuff, I can bring enough odds and ends that I can put something together and make it work. But going and measuring and talking to that homeowner and looking at what's in those spaces 100% will get you a much better outcome in the end. And if you're doing it yourself, same thing. Go in and measure. Make sure those bins are going to fit on your shelf. I don't care how pretty they are. If they don't fit, it's a waste of money.
No, absolutely. I went to Target and I got some bins and I was like, oh, this will do. And then I get home and I was like, I'm going to throw this again, out the front door.
Yep.
Just out the front door. my whole thing. When I was a child, my mother used to go through these little get rid of thing phases, and she would just open the front door and just start throwing stuff out, and then she'd go put it in the trash, and I was like, okay, so I see where I get it from.
Yes.
So how do you stay motivated and inspired in your line of work, especially during tough projects?
Oh, it's hard. I'll be honest. There have been some projects where I've had to just stop, walk outside, take a breath, and walk back in. It's not as overwhelming for us because it's not our stuff. So all that emotional attachment isn't there. But we have the emotions of making sure we want everything to be just right for this client because we like to say our clients kind of become our family and we fall in love with our clients. And it's so true. We get so invested in their families, their kids, what we're doing, making sure things work for them. Because when somebody who really needs organization finally gets to the point where they can say, I need this help, I really need this help, it is so hard for people to ask for help. It is absolutely so hard. And they're so scared to ask for help that when they finally get to that point of asking for help, you can just see it in their face. And they're terrified that we're going to judge them, that we're going to think their house is horrible. It's not. It's never as bad as they think it is. So it's not so much the stress of the organizing as us wanting to make sure that we are doing the absolute very best for that client we can do. So there are times where we do that, and we've put some things in place. So we always make sure we stop and get a lunch. As a former teacher, I never got lunch. So, and most of the ladies that work with me are former teachers. So, we take those breaks during the day and we make sure we set some time and then we work well with each other. I have 4 organizers that work with me on an as needed basis, and we're a team. I can walk into a space and say, hey, what do you think of this? And they do the same thing with me. Because a lot of times we will divide and conquer spaces. That one person will take the pantry, one will take this part of the kitchen, one will take that part of the kitchen, or maybe a different room. And so we bounce back and forth because I always feel like 2 brains are better than one. So there's no one right way to do this. So what we do in your home might be very different from what we do in your next door neighbor's home. It depends on, what you all need. So we bounce off of each other. So we kind of have a system set up that we're interacting with each other and we're saying, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we also know no one's out to hurt. We all have the same goal. No one's out to hurt each other's feelings. We're out to do what's best for the client. So if I walk in and one of my organizers is doing something, I'm like, hey, have you thought about doing this? But they will equally come into a space I'm doing and go, hey, what about this? And then we'll hash out back and forth what we think until we come usually somewhere in the middle to what appears to be to us the best solution. So the stress isn't so much for us the amount of things or the actual organizing, it's the getting it to that level that we want it to be for each client.
No, that's absolutely true, especially when you are doing projects, multi-projects, I want to say, in a home, to be able to be cohesive with it. So that's great that you have great feedback and a wonderful working relationship. It's very important. Something we talk about on the podcast too is being able to find people who support what you're doing while working for
Yes.
you. So I'm really glad that you have found that. It's very tough sometimes.
It
If you could give one piece of advice to someone struggling to get organized, what would it be?
One piece of advice. I would say declutter. It's not fun. It's not pretty. It's not going to leave you with that Pinterest perfect space. But if you don't go through and declutter, and by declutter, I don't mean take 1 or 2 things out. I mean pull everything out of that closet, go through everything, whether it's your pantry or your clothes or your Christmas decor. Christmas decor is a huge one this time of year. When you pull that Christmas decor out, go through it all. If you haven't used it in 20 years, give it away. Donate it. Somebody else could use it. Somebody else might think it is the best thing they've ever gotten. Get rid of it. Declutter. Unless you declutter, you can forget everything else. It's never going to look like you want it to look until you get rid of that stuff. And we all have stuff we can get rid of. I personally am working on decluttering my own closet at the moment, which is my personal pain point. I hate getting rid of clothes, but I am working on it. And it will take me 2 or 3 weeks to go through my entire closet because I dread it. But it would take me an hour to go through yours.
I gave myself the next 6 months to do that because I was thinking, oh, like I could do this in a week. No, no, no. We're going to
It's
take the
hard.
6 months little by little. I'm going to start decluttering it and get rid of it because I haven't done that since my kids were younger. And now that they're older, I'm in a weird spot. So I'm like, maybe I don't need 6 bottles of Benadryl, just like random things that I just don't need anymore. So, how do you tailor your approach to accommodate different personality types and lifestyles?
It's really just getting to know them. We've worked with senior citizens who are downsizing. We've worked with young families. We've worked with working moms, stay at home moms. And it's really more about listening than it is anything else. Listening to what their pain points are, getting them to feel comfortable enough to even tell us what their pain points are, to be honest and say, I can't handle this. I need this or I need that. It's so funny. We've worked with families from different cultures, and there are certain cultures that are so very competitive. We worked with a set of friends. They were from a different culture. They were not from the US. And it was the one friend was so horrified that her other friend may see the before pictures. She didn't want me to post them for 6 months. She was absolutely horrified that her friend would see the before pictures. I've had people come in and want me to come in and do things before their mother-in-law arrives because they didn't want the mother-in-law to see. We were there one time during a mother-in-law visit, and she said, I'm going to tell her you're my friends and you're just helping me. So it's
Wow.
very much about listening. That's how we tailor it, to be honest, is listening. If you listen and you let people talk, you will learn what you need to know. And, for some people, it means that every little item is labeled, every little thing is detailed out. For some people, they don't want the labels. We had one client, and I was so proud of her. She knew herself so well. She's like, I only need clear containers. Don't bring me any pretty baskets. Don't bring me anything else. I need clear. If it's not clear, I'm not going to do it. And I love that. I love that she knew that about herself, because if we suggest that to a client, some are like, yeah, wow, you're right. And some still want the pretty look. So, it's just so cool to see that and to be able to work with so many different personalities. But I really think the way we tailor it is really by listening. And then by listening, we know what path to take with them.
No, absolutely. It's the same thing in the cleaning business too, because people are like, I don't know, just I'm having a hard time keeping X, Y, and Z to where I need it. And it's like, okay, so now I understand what's most important to you and how we can keep this off of your plate, because that's a really big deal to people.
Yes,
Cleaning and
agree.
organization is huge. And
Yes.
honestly, I think a lot of people, myself included, don't want to admit that, especially because I'm in the field. I clean my house once a month because I just can't. And the whole organization thing doesn't happen. But I digress. It's a whole thing. So, what trends have you noticed in the organization industry over the past few years? And where do you see it heading in the future? Because I know that a lot of people are Pinterest people, myself included. So, what are some of the trends that you've noticed?
It's really funny. Pinterest seems to rule everything. Pinterest and TikTok, they seem to set all these trends. It's not really changed a whole lot. I think the Home Edit and the Marie Kondos of the world have definitely kind of set a standard for these. I don't know if you've seen the Home Edit did, I think, Khloe Kardashian's pantry or something. And it was completely decanted, the Oreos all lined up perfect inside. And I see this trend and I think, gosh, we're really setting ourselves up for failure, because I don't know any mom with little kids that's got time to line up Oreos in a container. I didn't. I mean, mine are older now, but when they were little, there is no, I would have looked at you like you had six heads. There's no way. So I don't, I hope that that trend of that detailed, over the top celebrity organizing doesn't stick around. I hope I hope that we get into a trend of more realistic organizing. What does it look like for a real mom who doesn't have three personal assistants and a maid and event manager or whatever it is going on in their home? I would love to see that become our trend. I guess I'm not really good at predicting these kinds of things. I know what I would like to see, and to some extent I'm seeing a little bit of that, but there's still a lot of this setting us up. I feel like it's setting us up for failure. And this is, something we talk about, especially with new moms. Don't set yourself up for failure. Don't set up this, it's like what we said with catering to certain personality types. Why are you setting yourself up for failure? This is ridiculous. I don't need Oreos lined up in a container. It's just over the top, and I don't know.
I'm with you on that. I used to watch, because I'm obsessed with TikTok, these people be like, let me take everything out of a container and put it into another one and restock my fridge. And I'm like, do you not have a life? Like, you must be doing this content creation for real for all the time, because no, thank you. And not only
No.
that, expiration dates? Hello? I don't know.
Well, there are ways to deal with it. So, like, if we do get a client who, we've had two or three that is what they want, and they've got the time, they have the energy. I don't have the energy to do that, but they have the time and they have the energy to do it. And if that's what they want, then absolutely, we will set it up for them. Will I sit down with them and say, "Are you sure this is what you want?" Yes, because I want to make sure I leave them successful. But there are ways to do that. You can get a little Sharpie and write expiration dates on the back of the containers. And so we have ways that we can do that so it does stay safe. We can put the directions, they make clear little pockets. You can put little directions in and things like that for rice or, whatever it may be. But that's the trend I hope we're going into, is more simplicity and not so much over the top. Let's make it pretty for show. Let's make it function. Let's make it work for people.
That's the whole goal of organization, is to make it function for you, because you're obviously not functioning well.
Right. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's great. I love that. So how has your own personal organization philosophy influenced your life outside of work?
Uh, Well, honestly, I'm doing, I said I was working on my closet. I'm actually working on a reset of my whole house at the moment. I'm sitting up in my guest bedroom, which I have decided I needed to move all of our gift wrapping stuff into, because this is where everybody comes to wrap presents anyway. So might as well do it. So one of my favorite products is, I know I talk about the container store. I promise they don't pay me. I don't get anything out of this. But when you find a product that really, really works, I use it. So they have an over the door system, and I love it because it hooks at the top and the bottom of the door. And I know this sounds ridiculously simple, but I cannot stand those over the door systems that when you open and close the door, it bangs.
I'm with you.
And maybe it's because I had little boys and I know those doors get pulled open and back and forth and slammed, and I can't stand them. Their system hooks at the top and the bottom. It's a pressure fit. So we've used them in gift closets. We've used them in laundry rooms. We've used them in pantries. We've used them in bathrooms. We've used them in kitchens. You name it, we've used it. So that's what I've been actually working on this weekend, is setting up my guest bedroom closet more with wrapping paper and bows and that kind of stuff, so that it can be easily accessible, with the hope that when my husband, bless his heart, or my two boys decide they need to wrap something, they come into the guest bedroom to wrap it. I'm not sure why this is their place of choice, but it is. That the wrapping paper won't be left on the floor with the scissors and the tape and the trash, that it'll actually make it back onto the door of the guest bedroom door with the system up there, so they know it goes back in here. Previously, it was just all in a bin in the attic. And I think it was too much work to walk out of the guest bedroom door and walk to the door to the attic, which is right here on the same level as the guest bedroom, and put it back in there. So I'm really hoping that this will work for them. But I'm actually trying to apply the things. that I tell my clients in my own home and kind of doing a reset, because I do think that's something, I'm hitting a different season. My youngest is a senior in high school. He won't be here next year. He'll be off at college. So I'm trying to reset our house a little bit. It's going to be a little bit different. And so I'm slowly trying to work through and kind of set up maybe some new systems, some things that I've learned working with clients, some products that I found that I really like. So I think it's organization. You need a good initial setup, but then I also think you have to tweak it as you go along and as your family grows and changes.
No, absolutely. I agree with you on that. I am the same way. I have, older children as well. And then I got the little one. So I feel like I'm in a season two where I need to fix all that and get it more functional, especially
Mm-hmm.
for the lifestyle in which we live, you know? So tell me about what are some of your favorite tools or resources that you recommend to clients for maintaining organization?
More than tools or resources, you have to have buy-in. Everybody that lives in your house needs to buy into this. So if you're going to contact me to get organized, love to hear from you. But make sure your spouse is on board. Make sure the people that live in your house are on board. More than any product or anything else, they need to be on board. Because if everybody in the family is not on board, it is going to be difficult to maintain. It does not need to, I think as moms, we're really guilty of taking that all on our shoulders.
Hmm.
And that's not fair. It's just not. And it's not reality. These days, moms are working just as many jobs as dads are. And to then put all the household on top of mom, as well as working outside the home, or even working inside the home, or working from home, or whatever the case may be. I've done it both. I've worked when my children were little, and I stayed home when my children were little. There's not an easier one. They're both hard. And so I think that's the biggest key to this is have your family buy into this. We've had husbands that were reluctant who then came around to the dark side with us and saw the benefit and saw how happy, how much easier things were in the mornings or in the afternoons or whatever their pain point was. But I think beyond any kind of system or product, that's it. You have to have buy-in from the people that live in your house. And if you don't have that buy-in and they're not at least willing to try, then it's going to be a hard road and you're not going to be as successful.
I will definitely second, third, and fourth that because I have three children and obviously three very different personalities. My son has autism. He always had to have his room clean. Things have to be a certain way. Love that about it. My daughter, she's the second oldest and she's the same way. Everything has a place and it has to be put away and it has to look good. I love my third daughter to death, but her ADHD makes everything look like a tornado no matter how hard I try. I've even done the little bins so you could just throw them in. Each bin is nope, it's a disaster every time. So you're absolutely right. It has to be a commitment and it has to be on board. Otherwise, it's just scary.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
So, what are switching gears a little bit? So, what are some common challenges that you face as an entrepreneur, and how have you been able to overcome them? Because I know this was not an easy job to start, especially during 2020.
No, it was hard to start this during COVID. Everybody was afraid. We took lots of safety precautions, wore masks while organizing and sweated like crazy people with masks on. But you know what? We wanted our clients to be comfortable and to know that we took their safety seriously. I would say the hardest thing about owning a business is all the different hats. All the different things like the organizing. I got that. That's not a problem. I love it. Love it. The accounting, bookkeeping part of it, the worst thing I've ever had to do in my life. Absolutely the worst thing I've ever had to do in my life. To the point where I have hired a bookkeeper to teach me how to do it the easy way so that I can just do it and be done with it. The social media also, it will be the death of me. I mean, it just, I love putting up the cute little videos of what we've done, but the planning it out and the figuring out what to post and when to post and where to post it and how to post. Oh my goodness, overwhelming. But as still a relatively young business at 4 years, I'm not comfortable hiring somebody to be a bookkeeper, somebody to do my social media, somebody to do this, somebody to do that. That's a lot of expenditure. And I'm trying to really keep an eye on things because where I want to spend is on the ladies that work for me. I want to pay them well. I want my income to go towards those kinds of things to build my business. So, learning all those things has been a challenge, to say the least. Uh, I'm doing it. I don't always do it well. And, I find myself every once in a while just needing a social media break. So, I will just not post for a couple weeks. But it's important. All those little things play into letting me organize, letting me do this. So I think that has really been the biggest challenge is not the organizing itself, but all the little business things that you don't think about when you're starting the business. Like, where am I going to advertise? Where am I going to put that money into? Do I advertise on social media? Do I advertise on the radio, on the TV? Do I send out mailer? So many. And then everybody's coming at you. I found this when I first started business. Everybody's got brilliant ideas for you, and they're so well meaning, and they so want you to succeed, but you can't do it all. It's like, okay, I love your idea. Let me write it down. And when I get some bandwidth and my brain is not melting, I will look at it again. But that really has been the hardest part is just all the other things. And it sounds great because I'm like, oh, I set my own hours. No, I don't. I work all the time. I work
I
all the
laugh.
time.
I laugh at that because every single time I talk to an entrepreneur, it's like, yeah, couldn't work 40 hours a week, so now I work 24/7. And I'm like, oh, wow. But at the same time, I can manage my time better not having to be somebody else's, employee than I can just doing my own stuff. Like, I'll work 24/7, that's fine. But in that meantime, I'm also cooking. I'm also doing stuff for my kids. So to
Mm-hmm.
me, that's a better working situation.
But I have to say, finding people to work with you who you can trust, who care as much as you do, that has been truly, I think, the key to me being successful. Those ladies that work with me pour their heart and soul into what we're doing and care so much about the end result for these clients that has been the greatest source of support and made this so much easier having them there and knowing that I can leave them on a job and they're going to do things even better than I expected. So that has been an extreme positive. The accounting is going to kill me, but but the other has been great.
I feel you on the accounting thing too. I actually went to school for bookkeeping because I was like, I want to do this when I grow up. I'm glad I have the knowledge. Let me just say that. But at the
Yes.
same time, I don't I don't do my own books. I wait until the end of the year and I'm like, okay, now I can do it all. It's
I'm
terrible.
trying not to be that person, but that is who I am becoming.
It is terrible. So I guess it sounds like my organization skills kind of lack in all areas of life. So I need to get some systems in place. No, that's great. Well, tell everybody where they can find you. What's the website address and your Facebook information?
Okay. Facebook is Clearly Organized NC. Our website is www.clearlyorganizednc.com. We're on Instagram, Clearly Organized NC. We are on TikTok. You can go to our website and you can book a complimentary phone consultation with me, and I will go through all the steps and procedures and cost and everything else with you so you know exactly what's going on. If you go to our website, you will see information about me, about all of our organizers. You will see our package list with prices. All that information's on there. If you want to just see kind of what we do, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok are the best places to go. We put up all kinds of before and afters. Um, our clients are very gracious and allow us to do that. If that's something that scares you, we absolutely don't have to put your home up. But I will say we do make a real effort to make sure there's nothing identifiable in those pictures. So if we're doing something, your family picture happens to be in there, I will black it out. Those kinds of things. We take privacy very, very seriously. We don't want anybody to be embarrassed by their befores. So if that's something that's just really hard for you, we just don't post it. And that's why sometimes, we'll have 3 or 4 jobs in a row that they don't want to be posted. So we just don't. It's that easy. We just don't post it.
No, and that's great. I love the fact that you have all the social media because that I think is a really big deal when it comes to branding and showing like what you can do. My business took off when I started being like, look at me, I'm on the internet. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that you do that because it's so great for your clients. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us and all about your business. I really do appreciate you coming out today and sharing all the knowledge too. And now I feel like I have so much to work on, going to be honest.
Sorry.
Hey, that's why I do this podcast. It's a little bit of therapy, but it's also a lot of learning. And something I learned a long time ago is the education is always free. You just have to listen.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. Love talking about anything organizing, love working with other local businesses, and it's just a lot of fun.
It is. And are you based solely in Clayton or do you work all over the triangle?
We go all over Raleigh area. We try to stay within an hour of Clayton, but honestly, we have gone as far as Greensboro. We've gone to the beach. We work that on a case by case basis. If it's somebody who just really needs some help, then we can work that out. We like to stay. We do Wake Forest, Holly Springs, Apex, Cary. We tend to spend a lot of time Cary, Holly Springs, Apex area, but we absolutely will. We've gone to Durham recently. We're just kind of a little bit of all over. It just depends on the job, and if it's something we feel like we can really help with, then we're more likely to travel.
Well, thank you so much for everything. And tune in for another exciting episode next week of Down Home Dirt.